Welcome, viewers. Today's master class, and headmaster is already now in the studio. Welcome, Gary, and our viewers. I'm sure definitely know Gary Singh, and it is always my pleasure and privilege to introduce him formally. Captain Gary Singh is certified security manager and is the president of IRIS Consulting. He is a Six Sigma green belt. He is a risk management professional par excellence with vast experience in setting up and monitoring ERM, intelligent networks, governance, compliance, and risk mitigation framework. He has earned unique understanding and aptitude to seamlessly stitch strategy on ground implementation thereafter. I am happy to share that IRIS has opened office in Lagos, and the heartiest congratulations, Gary, for that. Lagos in Nigeria. IRIS pioneers new age solutions, blending technology and human interventions, and this strategic expansion, I am sure, will facilitate welcoming of top solutions for the Nigerian market. IRIS Nigeria office will be part of Gulf and Africa region of IRIS operations. Apart from his technical background and interest, Gary imbibes the quest for innovation, training, and communication. He has innovated new practices and written papers on subjects such as NPA management, risk management, white collar crimes, etc. Captain Garry is also the State Councillor for ICSSM, which is holding this security training initiative. An insider threat is a security risk that originates within the targeted organizations. This would be further elaborated, and I am sure that this master class will bring lot of value, lot of learning for all our members who are security professionals, safety professionals, and I am sure that from across the world, many security professionals have already joined and will benefit from this masterclass. So, Gary, it is your session now. It is your show. Over to you.
Thank you, sir, and Jai Hind. Jai Hind to you and Jai Hind to everybody who's logged in. As of now, it is really a pleasure, an honor, in fact, that I have the opportunity to present session under the regime of ICISS, such a professional body which is very, very selflessly helping a lot of professionals across the globe to hone up their skills, to pick up new skills, and serving the industry in the best possible manner. Well, today's session, when we talk about insider threat, my personal assessment that insider threat is the biggest risk any organization is facing today. If someone says, I don't have an insider threat, it's just their ignorance to the fact that they have not understood the threat well. In fact, this threat in the modern era has only increased in importance when the organizations depend so much on IT, data is the king. Insider threats value becomes far more significant. Because in this era, you lose of IP, lose of data, lose of information. Yes, a lot of other issues which can go far more grave are a challenge. And whenever speaking about insider threat, I'm never able to stop myself saying that even when Lord Rama was having a battle with Ravana, now on one side we had demons, another side we had God. Even God had to rely upon Vibhishan, who provided inside information. Otherwise, it was becoming very difficult. And even if you look at security per se, whether it was security in the old era, when we were creating forts, we were creating secure mechanism. Everybody was creating that mechanism from outward to inward security, so that people can be stopped outside, not cross walls. Outside the walls, you'll have ditch, you'll have water, you'll have crocodiles in that water. But if there was any situation, whether it was a Trojan horse or it was somebody who opened the door of Ranthambore fort, which was not being won by the enemy, those small things made people come inside. So it was always outward to inward security. Even the modern day security, when we look at the IT world, very similar. How from outside to inside, there are firewalls, there are protection, there are encryptions, and everything else. But once you're inside, you not have only gained access to such data, information, processes, whatever is happening inside, assets, manpower, but you've also gained an element of trust that you can be inside. That's where the challenge starts. And that's where the insider threat is a big time challenge that we are trying to work on. As of now, we will go through certain slides just so that we all of us are oriented in the same fashion on insider threat. But this is really something which I do understand that there are some very, very senior, very experienced and wonderful professionals also here. And we look forward to discussion. We look forward to their comments. We look forward to some penetrative questions which can be very well make understanding of insider threat and mitigations far better for all of us who are there in the session. So may I seek just a confirmation that if my slides are visible, then I can go forward and change them.
Yeah, your slide is visible.
Thank you, sir. Thanks so much. So here is a quick sequence that we'll talk about slides. And these slides are going to be very talking about simple things. They're not going to cover things which may be part of the discussion. And because I know a lot of experts on this call will love to contribute. But let's start with very basic. And let's see what exactly we mean by insider threat. And I'm going to read the definition and also pinpoint certain portions which do require attention here. An insider threat is a perceived threat to an organization that comes from people within the organization, such as employees, former employees, contractors, or business associates who have access to organization assets, people, processes, and all other details. So the key thing is we're looking at a threat, and this threat is from people, till now from people, but maybe you never know in near future when we are going to discuss this, we may be even looking at the artificial intelligence and maybe looking at some of the Trojans and other things which can possibly run by themselves. So yes, if that happens in future, we'll look at that. But as of now, we are looking at threat from people. And they can be employees, former employees, contractors, business associates, anyone who has been inside the organization, has been working with the organizations as employee, as contractor, as partner, as whosoever. Based on that relationship, based on that association, they could have access to assets, people, process, data, anything and everything else which exists. That's what is causing. So even an employee who was working with the organizations and have now quit, but continued to possess the information or anything else that can cause a threat, will still come under inside threat only. Although the person may have gone out, whether joining a competition or not joining a competition, but if you had inside access, you got data, you got anything else, whatever you do with that later, that covers within the insider threat. And this insider threat, a lot of people have been assuming that this is not something which has a very high life value. The reason being, like I said initially, they have not measured this threat. They have not measured that what it can cause. And they have not measured that at what level it goes. And I would like to really call it right from the time of whether the historical evidence in terms of how insiders were used from time to time, how during even the world wars the insiders played a role, and even in the modern day. In fact, one of my own personal favorite insider threat missions, if I discuss about, maybe I'll just take 2-3 minutes, not more than that, to quickly give you a glimpse of it. In fact, if the story is unfolded, you can actually create a movie of almost 6-7 editions, or maybe you can create a OTT, the way you get all these channels showing various series. You can actually have more than 20 episode series on it. That's how it unfolded. That's how complex it was. But in short, there was a Chinese citizen who's working at NASA. And this Chinese citizen, even in last 15 years of his work, only had one trip to China, was not really in touch with anybody in China directly, and there was no need to suspect him for anything. But once at a time, there was a small mistake which led at least the investigation be triggered. And then finally, the old age surveillance methods and even the trash bin checks and a lot of things, when they were done, final discovery was that China as a country gained tons of R&D data of NASA to speeden their complete space program without having spent that money, without having spent that time. More than money, it was time, because if they were going to do their own R&D, they would have taken 20-25 years to reach where they reached. And that's the level of detailing which was passed. And there was a full network, how it happened. Yes, it's you can also Google it on the web. You'll find it very interesting to read, but that's where it is. So once you have an insider threat, you never know what damage they can cause and how much it can go. And even in the corporate scenario, even when you're looking at a lot of boardroom leaks, when you're looking at a lot of situations when all of a sudden your sales are dropping and your competition is going up, a lot of time when you thought of launching a product which was a new technology in 2026, but there is another company which has launched a similar stuff in September 2025, well, whether they were in hurry or they knew what you're up to or whatever that can be. So there is at every stage this big insider threat which plays a role. And if you really look at data, and this data is, I confess, this is more Western oriented data, because across Asia and some of the other regions such as Africa, there's not much data generated in terms of corporate attacks, insider threat and all. So this is a little Western oriented data. But mind you, the awareness and controls in the Western countries is far better than Asia and Africa. So if they are facing this challenge, which goes to 90% and 53% and 86%, you can imagine in Asia's and Africa's, where there is lack of control as compared to the Western countries, lack of awareness as compared to the Western countries, what exactly will be our percentages? And if you look at the frequency of attacks, if you look at the total value getting lost, if you look at making it in terms of the monetization and commercial value, it is definitely one of the challenges one needs to be geared up about. But at the same time, very interesting fact, in Western countries, you will also find huge amount of work being done. If you're looking at this data itself, it will tell you that 86% of organizations have started the preparation or have reached some stage of preparation in terms of managing the insider threat. So there is a lot of awareness that yes, they are facing it. There is determination that they need to stop that miscreant who can be inside and create problems, and then they have started making programs. So which is a very positive factor in the way. Quick look at what type of insider threat actually exists. Although knowing about types will only maybe help you design the type of controls, but at the same time, which one you face, you cannot be very sure of. I'll just take a quick look because most of you will know these types. So I'll not spend much time, but we'll go further and discuss more on how we make efforts to how to control and what are the features which are going on. So first is oblivious. Now these are employees, contractors, or whosoever you want to call. These are the resources who unknowingly may cause harm with their risky actions. So they are so oblivious to what they were supposed to do. And because of that, they do not mind sharing information in any front, sometimes bragging about what they're doing, which might be confidential information, even talking about schedules of their senior leaders, talking about which partners can come in, and so on and so forth. It can really range from various different types. Right? When you look at negligent, they know what to do, but they don't follow it. Oblivious are like they were not even aware what to do. But negligent, they know what to do, but they're causing harm by ignoring the protocols and policies which you told them. So ideally, if I look at in terms of what percentage these days in even the Indian subcontinent, the corporate face is the negligent is the highest level, because there has been good work by a lot of organizations, risk management professionals, security professionals. So level of awareness has been going up. So we have reduced the oblivious to smaller numbers now, but the negligent still are pretty large in percentage. So there is some rough estimation that almost 2/3 of the challenges of insider threat which are created are by the negligent people. So which means organization has a decent protocol and policy now. It also had at least sufficient manner of awareness established that these protocols are passed to employees. But there is not sufficient stringent protocols, policies, or even I will say disciplinary issues that will ensure that people who have learned the policies continue to abide by it. So negligent is the biggest problem right now. So people have made protocols, they're making everybody aware, but it is not being done in a manner that people will say, oh, I need to follow it. So the training methodologies, HR disciplinary issues, because if somebody has done it, you take a strong action, that becomes also an example for others. Then many people don't repeat it. But if organization ignores negligent people, it encourages everybody else. That's where the biggest problem, at least in the Indian subcontinent, lies right now. Next is malicious. Now, malicious is somebody who's been trained and placed purposely to be an insider who will cause this problem. Now, something very interesting to note, a lot of time, the insider threat and your top performer, or maybe let's say sometimes even if you call fraudster, they have very similar profiles. What it means, very sharp, they're doing great results, the organization loves them, and organization believe that they have a strong future along with these particular people. That's the big problem in terms of how do you segregate between the genuine top performer and somebody who's malicious. Well, we'll go to some mitigation discussions later, but just to show that how complex it can be, how difficult it can be. And it is not as easy as putting one control, two guards, 5 gates, 7 cameras, 21 sensors, or whatever other equipment. It doesn't help. If there's a malicious insider threat, there's a very detailed process needed to identify and neutralize. The traditional systems may not work. There has to be integration of a lot of systems. So we'll go to that shortly. But again, the problem is, although militias may not be very huge in number, but there has been a continuous rise in last 5 to 7 years in terms of the total malicious threat being faced. It is regularly increasing, and these people are as good as love to be hired by organizations, but you never know whether they're malicious or they're clean. Another challenge which comes up: India continues to have a huge growth. India continues to have every sector working at a great speed, but we still, in spite of a large population, are still facing skill shortage. And that's where a lot of time, when you're looking at the right skill set, you find your competition has it. And when hiring from competition, while you know that they do same work, I'm going to get the right skill, but where's the right intent? The person coming in is malicious or clean. That's where the additional checks, just the traditional background check, is not going to help you. So that's where a lot of effort has to be not only done at beginning stage, but over a period of time as well. And if I just take this parlance to a lot of intelligence agencies, they work at the country level, they work at the state level, and otherwise. That's where even the people who are part of the intelligence agencies need to be watched, because they are doing something as critical as that which can make or break a country's scenario, strategy, or maybe what's being planned by them. So that's where the malicious threat is very, very dangerous. Coming to the final one, which is called professional. Now, the difference between the professional and the malicious, that malicious is actually planted, just placed there with the bad intent. Now, these professionals are individuals of low integrity, low ethics, low commitment, who may not mind using the data they have if an opportunity comes their way. So they did not join with malicious intent, but they may not mind monetizing what they know, whether while continuing to serve. If they were continuing to serve, obviously they can end up being shifted towards malicious, because now they have intent, they have somebody, a handler, and regular movement of that. Or maybe later on they may continue as a professional, one organization or another, but they will use data from one side to another. Okay, so that's just a quick look on 4 types. Again, don't worry too much about which definition, how it is, but you need to worry about the overall concept per se. I see Captain Tyagi back. Sir, any question from you? Any comment till here, or anybody else has put any questions? Sorry if I've not been able to see in between.
No, continue, Gary.
Okay, thank you, sir. So I've just tried to simplify here what exactly they target. While it can be made complex, but coming from military, we always used to have these small tricks of remembering which all points you need to put in an answer by creating certain abbreviations, creating certain sentences or otherwise. And I'm very sure a lot of you would have done when you were ready for an exam. You know the concept and you understood everything well, but the teacher will expect you to put those 7, 8, 9 points, whether you understand the concept or not. So that's where I said, let's make it a little simpler. What they target? Well, they target, first of all, property. Property, you can directly take it as something which has got value. Now, property can be intellectual property in nature. It can be information. It can be actually real asset. They can be stealing things. They can be whether information or actual spare parts, material, whatever can be sold for a good price. So first thing they target is property. And maximum amount of challenge caused by insider threat is within the property domain. So all these people are doing it for monetary value. They want money. And this immediately generates a gratification for them if they're able to pick up whether intellectual property or anything else. But at the same time, now, if you'll plan to look at how you're going to handle the insider threat, look at that if they pick up your property, there is a buyer for that property, only then they're picking up. If it's minor things, metal, precious metal, or some other pieces of property, or even electronic items, whatever, there's a buyer outside, right? Outside your premises, there's a buyer who'll buy that. This is fine. Real assets being picked up, you will finally have your inventory check, at least if quarterly, monthly, annual, whatever you do, you'll realize that your inventory is short, it's shrinking, you'll start putting controls, all that will work. But when it comes to intellectual property, you may not even get a whiff of it that what you've lost. Whereas in the market, you will find that your premium value, which you generated by doing a huge amount of research and development work, is not the same. And when I talk about the intellectual property, don't think it's always big time pharma, big time software, big time this, big time that. It even happens at all level. You'll be surprised that a lot of food products, such as you would have seen chips, you would have seen a lot of associated products these days. Even the spices they use, the type of raw material they use, even that's a big time in demand. And that's how you find somebody, a local brand, which is not registered and not at a big scale, will be trying to dish very similarly named products, which may also taste something similar because they even steal the spices formula. Sometimes they're stealing the spice which was supposed to be used inside. So it is quite a large mess, and happens at all level. It's not limited to just the very high end. A lot of time we believe that intellectual property means something very high. No, at all levels. Soaps, shampoos. In fact, when you work on the IPR issues, you'll be surprised at how much of a problem that causes. And a lot of time it is again caused by insiders, because the insiders can even help the supply chain being used for the original product getting infiltrated by counterfeits. That's also an insider problem, because it makes everybody have good money. They are going to make more margins, your suppliers, your distributors. That's how it works. So you need to be very cautious. That's where the property is the biggest value which cause. Now, when it comes to people, now, yes, there have been situations when people have been attacked, targeted. Although India per se doesn't faces huge amount of attack on people because of insider threat, but at the same time, whenever it takes place, it creates far bigger sensation, far bigger impact on the mindsets of all other employees and all other companies in market if even one such attack takes place. There have been attacks because of disgruntlement, because of whatever. There have been situations when some employees have lost lives, some employees have been attacked and injured, and so on and so forth. So number of attacks, thankfully low, but whenever it takes place, it's a very big impact item. Well, processes, yes, the modern day work is huge process dependent, and also part of the process is partner dependencies. For example, if you look at, let's say, the modern day e-tail companies, So they have a platform in between. They're not making any product. They're picking up products from someone. A lot of them, even the partners are selling products on the platform, not that they are selling it themselves. There might be other third parties which will move these products from one place to another. There'll be other third party which may actually even deliver the food or product to you, like for example, Zomato, Swiggy. Even a lot of other products in the similar manner are being done. So where's the value? How this process is run? Who are the partners and what cost it's being done? In fact, this makes me recall a very interesting case which I worked on almost around 13 or 14 years back. One of the very large international automobile company, they had a R&D center in India, and this particular R&D center was working to create few new things which were going to be a future product, which was going to be something which everybody looked at. This is going to be super successful and things like those. All of a sudden, there were a couple of printouts found on a table, inside a table, actually inside the drawer of person who left the organizations around 20-25 days back. So somebody who saw those prints all of a sudden was a little worried that why these prints are at this table, because the person who left was not working on this product. Thankfully, that person picked up the prints, went to the R&D head and said, I just found these at table of Mr. So-and-so who left us around 20-25 days back. I'm a little surprised it shouldn't be with him because he was not working on this product. So not only thankfully this person walked up to R&D head and handed over those prints, R&D head also decided to take it forward and asked IT to check, because there are logs for everything. You can find out what's printed, what's to be done. And the IT could confirm, yes, they were printed by the person who left us, and it was printed on this and this date. At that stage, I came into picture, and I was working for a company which was working on forensics. So went in and we started doing the process. And you know what we realized? It was not only these prints, but every bit of R&D which was happening in that place, which meant the future product, pricing of the product, partners who are going to supply parts, at what cost they're going to supply parts, the timelines, everything was also soft copied by this person who left. Once we did the forensic, it was horrifying situation for the R&D head and as well as the India country manager of that automobile company, that just looked like the biggest loss they have ever faced globally. At that point of time, there was a particular police complaint done, court order received, because in further analysis, we could find out this particular employee came from the competitor, went back to the same competitor. And some discrete checks did reveal even his lifestyle was beyond the expected means. And at the same time, he was known to be very close to the promoter of that company from where they came in. Based on the court order, there was a search done at this particular ex-employee's home. Even the data was found there, and it was confirmed that data was transferred to the competitor. So all these stories, nobody publishes, nobody goes to market to tell others, but a lot of companies face it. And a lot of these situations are being faced day in and day out, but obviously not getting reported. So when it comes to situations such as these, because listed company, lack of reputation, share price going down, and a lot of things which can come up are going to be very gory situations. So the people themselves don't want to bring these stories up. That's a big challenge which comes, right? So that's important. Okay. Coming to the last one, profits. Obviously, a lot of time when it's a direct competition, they can actually try to sabotage. If not, they can bring equal value, low cost products to the market, and so on and so forth. It can go in any direction. So that's how, just simplifying what exactly the target: property, people, process, profits. And if I have to make it more simple, from 4 P's, I can bring to 1 E. What they target? Everything. Whatever is valuable for them and causes harm to you, that's what. An insider has that much of excess, can really cause a big harm and big problem for you. Who will cause bigger harm? If somebody has better technical expertise and obviously have more knowledge of your internal processes, that's your greatest threat. That's how sometimes when you make these insider threat control programs, you may have different set of rules where the criticality is high and different set of rules where criticality is low. That obviously becomes ease of implementation, and the costing also is a factor. So that's where it works, that if you have a better technical expertise, better internal process knowledge, you are a bigger threat. And believe me, uh, it was not possible to get every bit of data within one presentation because it's a very large topic. But just to share with you, most of the time, the insider threat problems are senior employees, managers, senior manager and above. A lot of time, even at the leadership level. So that's adding to the further complexity, and that's adding to the further challenge of how to exactly control it. Because you need to also look at how exactly whom to report and how to manage, how to execute, it becomes all the challenge. Now, while we may not be able to discuss 100% of how to control it, because even separate organization will need separate processes, but something which is very important to understand: you cannot just design one control or two and say, I've taken care. You have to design a system. This system has to be relentless, and this system need to encompass every bit of thing that may be happening inside the organization. You cannot afford to say HR will be separate, security will be separate, legal will work separately, marketing will work separately. All these have to combine. Even within the security, your systems have to combine. One of the major thing inside the organization you need to worry to identify such insider threats is behavioral analysis. That's where you need HR. That's where you need immediate reporting managers of employees. You already have, if you have deployed an electronic access control, you have a great bit of data in that. You can even just notice trends there. Somebody who leaves every day at 5:30, but one day was working till 10:30. I'm not saying this is confirmed insider threat, but at least this should be a reason to find out why that person worked till 10:30. The manager may say, oh, we had a budgeting issue, we were working on something, we had a delivery date, we had whatever. Then you find, okay, they had a reason. Still, look at CCTV. They were doing that or they were doing something else. Is there anything gone missing that day? Is there any, why don't you link up with also the IT? Why don't you look at the cybersecurity also and make it here saying, can you check what exactly the IP addresses they were logging? What was the activity going on? So you need to have all these together. And while it may not be possible to manually ping every time, that's where you need the system to have certain automation. One of the easy ways to do it is to have a scoring mechanism. What will happen? Different stakeholders, based on activity, can score an individual. And these stakeholders are not only humans, which means HR or immediate boss or second manager or the security head or even the guard who's noticing that this person was behaving differently today, or even the canteen walas or whosoever. Your systems, your cybersecurity controls, your CCTVs, your access control, all these also are stakeholders to give you indications. All they will help to find an aberration, to say there was something different. And as possibly risk management professional, security professional, if you're permitted, you also need to have check on the external environment. I don't want to name that particular company, but one of the big time ISIS Twitter was being handled from India inside an IT company. The person was sitting there working. And once it was identified, everybody said, oh, we knew he's different. We knew he's doing something. We knew he behaved like this. Why this was not triggered beforehand? You also need to have hearing mechanisms. You need to have that available to employees, to everybody else, to say what they want to say, to report aberration, to report concerns, to report threats. Just imagine ISIS at the peak, the Twitter handle being handled from inside an IT company sitting in India. What worse? That's where it is. So that's how you have to get a system in. And maybe few things I'll try to explain, and because these have been coined by us, for example, the progressive access theory. What I say here is that why on day one you will put, and again we are taking example of security guard, it can be meaning for anybody else. Why on day one a security guard will be deployed at data center? Why doesn't it start where there is less risk to you, because even this person is your insider threat? So start from the gate. Let that guard earn enough trust to start moving into other critical locations. Similarly, why an employee should have all the critical data assets available on day one. I know a lot of time it becomes role based, but still, if such critical data, which can really harm the organization in huge extent, why don't you put those employees in a different fashion and enhance their role to be the most critical employee? Progressive access, give access, but at the same time in a progressive manner. On day one, you expose everything. Well, yes, that's part of higher danger to your insider threat, part of higher danger to challenges you can face. Something which again I want to repeat, I earlier also mentioned. Seldom is an organization where I've seen HR and security collaborating. These are one of the most two important critical functions. If they can collaborate, not only insider threat, they can also provide huge amount of benefit to the organization by increasing efficiencies and a lot of other factors, and obviously controlling the insider threat as well. So that is one place where always there's a challenge, but I think there has to be done. And when you're building the system, do the threat assessment, check where there is a higher criticality, put make bigger controls there. Wherever there's a less criticality, there can be maybe much softer controls, but let it be a system. Let it combine together. Let it work as an integrated unit. Let inputs come from all. Let there be at least a desk, a dedicated person who will be reviewing all this. And like I said earlier, let's not treat an indication, aberration, a flag as a confirmed insider threat, but please treat it that it requires attention. After careful monitoring, after careful look at it, you may decide that this is insider threat or no, it is not insider threat. You can have your system having all the three lights, red, yellow, green. Red, it's a problem. Let's intervene. Green, no, it was just a false alert, let it go. Yellow requires more monitoring for more time. So that's where I will say it plays a role. And like I said, it'll be not easy to discuss every bit of system building today, but at least if people start thinking about it, I think this would do the job, so that you can go back and at least put something on a board and say, hey, I have systems, but I'm not working on them in the manner I should. I have systems, but I should use them better in any manner that I can. So that's where it is. Maybe that's possibly, if you can rest the slides and possibly do some question answer. I think we just have 12 minutes left for it.
Yeah, Gary, there are a few questions, and in fact, I myself have a couple of questions. But then, considering the time, first question comes from Raj Kolar, and she's asking, could you also throw light on how to guard against insider threat? What are the signs to look for? And further to that question, another question comes from Prashant Tiwari, and that also is displayed on a screen, but I'm reading out for you. And he is asking, in what way can insider instigate unions or vendors to cause non availability of operational framework, and what are the consequences? And third question comes from Mr. Sher Singh Shekhawat. Are there such tools, methodologies to find out insider threats beforehand? So, first question, that
Yes,
is
sir.
from Raj Kular, and that is displayed here. Could you also throw some light on how to guard against, sorry, against
Sure.
insider threats?
I made notes, sir. I'll go in the same sequence as and all
Right.
three great professionals. Thank you to all three for their questions. So let's say when we are talking about how to guard against, like we were just going back to the last slide that we were using, that how exactly we need to build a system, and this system needs to have uh, the controls in terms of preventive, detective, reactive, and even further if any extreme action needs to be conducted. Obviously, need to have entry barriers for insiders to come in. This can be done by also making your background check process more dynamic, because what is happening in most of the places, the background check process has ended up being a mere formality, a checkbox, rather than a careful, diligent exercise that will actually control whether insider threats or other fraudsters or anything else. So, at least for critical positions, like we discussed, high technical, high availability of inside becomes a bigger. So, wherever there's a higher criticality of insider threat, put more controls. Similarly, when people have come in, just don't throw everything at them on day one. Let them earn it. Let them earn the trust. Let them move deeper into organization, scale higher echelons of availability of information and things like those over a period of time. One very important method, which people do not view from the insider threat perspective or don't view from the perspective of good human resource management, is that, let's say if your CFO position vacants, you immediately go out and bring another CFO. One, it's a total new resource, less trusted. Number two, you're also causing issues within everybody down below, that I don't have that opportunity to be CFO. That means if I want to be, I'm the deputy, I need to be CFO, I need to go somewhere else. Have a great succession planning. So everything that happens in the organizations can have a positive or a negative impact on insider threat. You may be a bad HR, you may be a bad manager, you may produce disgruntled employees. You are increasing your insider threat. But you are so what you are, there's nobody monitoring you. So you will continue to do so. So everything that happens inside will play a role, rather than one simple thing which can say, okay, let's do that and not happen. And yes, Prashant has a great question about operational framework. Prashant, I do want to give a very extreme example here, which may not be ongoing operational framework, but if you remember, where was Nano supposed to be produced? The first, it was Singapore in West Bengal. That was the location picked up. And that plant never came up. Right? Maybe I'll not like to say more than that in terms of insider involvement or not, because that will become trenching on something that not to be discussed in the public domain. But now coming to a lot of other situations, we worked on situations when people have identified that in a factory, this belt is the most critical belt and they don't have a second one. And they caused breakage of it. This is sabotage by insider to ensure that you're not able to do your deliveries, not able to do your production. So this is happening. Only thing is, when such events take place, with the modern day security controls you have, something like CCTV and others, you're able to identify. If you have a bad network, you'll not be able to identify. But mostly, I'm expecting people have upgraded themselves. So such particular attacks on direct sabotage have gone down, and we were as discussing more on the information, and those things have gone up. But when it comes to handling the operational framework, we have seen a lot of sectors, cement, coal, even at steel, when there was a purposeful sabotage attempt of not to get you the raw material in time, then you'll not be able to produce in time. So all this is part of it. It happens. Have worked on it, but thankfully the percentage is low. And that's where whenever you're working on it, you try to have your own resiliency and BCP, that you have multiple vendors, you have multiple suppliers, you have multiple sources of transportation, you have multiple ways to handle one particular thing which is going on. That's where the BCP works on saying, don't have your single point of failures. Right? So I'm answering in short to at least to indicate, otherwise each answer actually can go on for hours. So Shekhawat Saab said, how can we identify them beforehand? Yes, you must identify them beforehand. That's the control you need to have. Maybe the first answer, which was to Ms. Rajkular, in terms of have that system. You need to have preventive controls. The cliche, prevention is always better than cure. Because once you're curing, your body will be left with some impact. Even the medicines you're going to eat, they will have side effect. So if you didn't prevent, obviously you will repent. that's maybe adding on to the cliche that if you don't prevent, you will repent.
Gary, you have spoken for good 45 minutes and never a dull moment. In fact, it is great learning for me also. I had few questions, and all those questions were also raised by our viewers. So now at the end of this masterclass, feel satisfied that I also learned few very important things. Thank you for sparing your time. And I must say the last point, which comes from Sashmita Sahu, and she has asked the question, what is the reason the insider starts a threat for the company? Sashmita, if you listen to what Gary had shared, while third slide he was addressing, and why the target. So that was amply covered there, and there are thousand reasons, very important reasons, which Gary has highlighted is that they are not trustworthy, and that's why they do all these things. Uh, Bad hiring is one thing which HR is purely and squarely responsible, because when they do not pay sufficient attention while hiring, engaging, then a lot of litigations, and of course, bad hiring opens all the vulnerabilities which insider threat poses very potently. And another point which I learned, that extended workforce or regular employee, there is no distinction, because all are vulnerable similarly. Whether it is money, whether it is vengeance, whether it is dissatisfaction, disgruntledness, there are thousand reasons for them to become insider threat. But equally, all of them, all the factors are applicable to either permanent employees or the hired one. So extended workforce is of course, in most of the organizations, larger than the regular, but then whatever may be the type, I'm sure that they need constant observation. There are tools, there are methods to keep them under watch, see their non-compliance issues, see their indiscipline issues, see their uh, other than the normal behavior. I would not say abnormal behavior, because most of the time few behavior indicators are healthy indicators, but from certain people these are not expected. So those are also telltale signs. And Gary, I am sure that everyone is benefited, and there are many viewers who are very profusely giving you uh, thanks and feel gratified for this session. And I will show one by one. And just for the record, that these are the feedback at the end of the session. And my duty to share with you before I finally say thank you to the visitor, and thank you to the master class teacher, Captain Garry. This discussion is one of the series we have started. The discussion uh, before that and even after this master class will be on varied subject. Such learning opportunities are organized regularly by ICISSM, International Council for Industrial Security, Safety and Management, which is in forefront in professionalizing the security professionals. And if you have not already subscribed to our channel, kindly do that. Be professional, and it is expected that you will give your comments, candid comments, and share the link with all your professional. Ultimately, our aim is to professionalizing the professionals. Thank you very much for joining in, and never enough to say thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I'm great that ICS is running this series. I look forward to further series subjects and